And March was a pretty fantastic year, or a month, actually. Zillow reported 281,546 new listings, okay, new pending listings in March, and that's the second highest month total since August 2022. So, almost 4 years since we've seen that amount of pendings in 1 month, which is amazing. And it was the strongest month in 5 years, our strongest March in 5 years. Page views, which matters a lot, just people come around clicking, that was up 32% year over year. And why does this matter? Well, it just signals intention from consumers. If people are online clicking, I mean, that usually results in more things, more contracts, more closing. That can signal as well, like future contracts, I would say, right? Because a lot of people will just start on Zillow and then it's many months later before they start writing contracts. So I think that's a good signal. Excuse me. The typical mortgage rate is 4.4% lower, or mortgage payment, I'm sorry, 4.4% lower than a year ago. So not the rate, but the overall payment is less than it was a year ago. So these things are all encouraging. They are all important information, to gauge whether or not you want to be optimistic. Now, let's be honest too. This war, whatever is going on in Iran, has set things back, you guys, and we are going to be set back. Even if it stops, probably people are saying we're going to have inflation, and it's going to be a while for interest rates to go back down. So unfortunately, we can't do anything about that. So it's not all rosy, and I don't want to paint it that way, but there's definitely things to be encouraged about. I think it's a very strong March. Let's look at a few things, and I won't try to bore you, but you guys, we are seeing interest rates go up, and I agree, it's short-term volatility. I think once things get settled in, I think they'll trend back down. I really do, and we were doing well. We had the lowest interest rates for a second since we've had in 2 years, and they've climbed back up a little bit. Nothing crazy. But even if the war were to end today, there's been sufficient disruption to infrastructure and a big enough initial spike in energy prices to create what economists refer to as second round effects. In simpler terms, this means that inflation expectations and interest rates will not immediately return to February's levels simply because the war is over. So there's lines, stuff like that. And I think it's important to know that when you hear, that the war's over for umpteenth time or whatever, it's not just going to go back down. Okay. All right. So, a good thing, good piece of data, I think, incomes are rising faster than home prices. There was a time where home prices were rising way faster than income, way faster. And, now we're at the point where incomes are steadily rising above home prices. And that's kind of what we want, right? We want to be able to afford our homes. And we want our clients to be able to comfortably afford our homes and not be, stretched every month. So new listings, you guys, have jumped up, and I didn't know this. I love learning things about real estate, but it turns out that March typically sees the biggest month-over-month jump in new listings out of the whole year. So from February to March, that's where we see the biggest jump, averaging 18%. Every single March, okay, from February to March. In our market, this is a snapshot of Allen County. We went up 39%. So we had 39% more listings come on the market from February to March. That's a huge jump. I mean, that's incredible. So I don't know about you guys, but if you're in the market, helping buyers, it used to be just there'd be maybe 3, maybe 5 houses to choose from. Now there's I feel like there's 10 or 15 at all times. Geez, there's more, maybe that's me. But I think that's a good thing. People have more choices, and you're not competing all the time. Every single time, you want to go show a house, there's already an offer by the time you schedule it. That's annoying. If nothing else, it's just annoying, right? Okay. So in March, we put 2% more listings on the market than we did in March 2025 as well. Okay. So I think that's pretty cool. Not all sellers were willing to negotiate, you guys. We saw a huge amount of people delist, actually. Not not just expire, but they pulled their house off the market. You know, I put it in the Slack channel this weekend where I had a client delist, and now they put it back on the market with Jason's favorite guy, Andrew, or Vita, whatever, that guy from Paradigm Realty Solutions, right? So this is the type of, it's a discount broker, it's a flat fee. They won't do anything, you know, they won't show up to closing, which they're legally obligated to in Indiana. No assistance, nothing, right? So you see that a lot. And but those houses, you guys, are coming back on the market and will be coming back on the market throughout the year. So pay attention to, if you're researching and you see a house that got delisted, you could go look that seller up and just say, hey, what are your plans? I was actually doing some research for a buyer of mine, and I came across yours. Or, you guys considering trying to give it another go? Interest rates are down a little bit since maybe the last time you listed, and our home prices have risen a little bit. It's a different market. It's a different season. It's a different feel than it was in November, and you can have that conversation with them. Okay, well, this graph just shows you that the amount of delistings in October 25 all the way back to January 2021, and a lot of these are coming back on the market. Okay, so I'm including this graph. Hold on. Okay, I'm including this graph because I want to show you guys. So the columns on the right, the green, okay, that's year to date, really since February, okay? And then the columns on the left, the blue, that was February 2025. And if you look at US across the board, we are just kind of stagnant in our home price growth, okay? And if you look at the Northeast and the Midwest, these are the only two areas in the country where home prices are continuing to grow. And the South is hanging steady, but if you talk to realtors in the South, like Florida, Georgia, these houses are staying on the market for a while. And if you look at the West, this is actually depreciating. And I think it's good, like we're slightly appreciating. And, that's what's great about the Midwest, I think, is that it's, it doesn't spike too much. It's very consistent. Okay, so this graph right here, I also think is interesting. So this will help you in your conversations or to conceptualize the importance, I think, of not overpricing a home. And okay, so each one of these columns represents what's happened to home sales, the price of a home once it sells. Okay, so if you look at where we are now, or if you look all the way on the right, 62% of houses sold below the list price, and we hadn't seen that since 2019. And if you look at the orange, 23% sold above list price. And if you look at like 2020, 2021, 2022, we were getting to like 45% of all homes were selling above list price. And a lot of people are still hanging on to that. So obviously we're going back more towards like a more neutral market. But I think one thing that's interesting, if you look at the middle gray area, that has been like ultra consistent, from like 2017, it was 16%, 16, went up to 18%, down to 17, 17, 17, now 16%. That's homes that sold at list price. So really that hasn't changed. I didn't know that. I figured there would be fewer homes selling at list price, but really it's the same amount of people that are listing their homes appropriately. That hasn't changed. And now it's just a bigger number of people that are not listing their home correctly. I thought